Good morning. I wanted to talk about the brain, some things I've been thinking about lately. One of my hobbies is, besides finding a place for my phone. Oh, I guess I should have my microphone. Oops, I forgot to plug my microphone in. Let me see, will this still work? Yeah, that looks like it's working. That's cool. Let's see if that works. I've got my Einstein hair. This is what happens when I don't get a haircut. I just like put it up so it's not in my face and my forehead and stuff. So, yeah, so I started with this. It doesn't go high enough for this. I could go down a little bit, but I've got a better idea. We'll just share the screen here. So let's look at these components of. Oh, let me see if I can do that or this. Whoa. Oh, here we go. There's different ways to do this. There we go. Okay, let's look at the stuff I have down here. I don't know if you can see the mouse, but we're looking at intelligence. And I thought about intelligence for a while. And that's not everything, right? So if you have intelligence, but your personality doesn't make you interested in something, you never know if you're a rocket scientist who's really good at math, physics, or something like that. I mean, you go through school and you're better at certain things or not, but I think that you can have a really good brain, but it can be held back by different things. For instance, knowledge on the screen there. I'm going to play around with this a little bit more. Oh, cool. You could see more of me. I like that. Let me see if I can increase this even more. View, 200%. That's as far as that goes. I wonder if I can zoom in even more. Yeah, just to get it larger for the screen experience. Doesn't seem to change much. Well, anyway, so yeah, I'm looking at the intelligence there. Knowledge. If you are smart, but you don't learn things, you're just going to be, you're not going to have stuff to process. You're going to be processing very few things. So I'm going to just kind of clumsily go through this. That's what I have time for and motivation, because that's where I'm at in life. Anyway, so let's explore these other things. You got paradigm. That's the word in the middle there. I'm just going to go over here and see if you can see it. Paradigm, knowledge, intelligent, creative imagination, experience. Experience is solid. I say experience is truth, is real. Everything else is an interpretation. Okay, that's something I say. So this is behind the scenes. So think about this as something in the background, but it's kind of it's you have to get through all this to get to there. So for instance, yeah, one of my hobbies is kind of detecting and trying to ascertain intelligence in other people and myself. It's just a hobby. I don't like, I'm not like the type of person that, if you're not intelligent, I don't have any time for you. I mean, mostly that's not true. I mean, all people are valid because they're in the image of God, but But it's just a hobby because, well, one of the questions is how much intelligence does an average person have access to in their own mind? I mean, what if our personality and paradigm and perception really hold back our access to something that is greater? And what does that even mean? Does that mean that I could get better at math if I tried harder or unlocked? Maybe not, because there is some neuroscience to actual hardware allocation that is competing for resources and might not be optimized for that. But does that mean that is there an overall, like if you have a bigger brain, is that better? You know, in humans, there's a lot of questions to this where I'm going with this. Uh, I had for instance here, um, I can't remember it right now. Hold on. I'll come back to that. It'll come back to me. So there's personality here, conscious and subconscious, something I've learned about or observed. There's observation, awareness, perception. I don't have anything to put there yet. And all this is subject to change. These are all different words that describe things that are happening somewhere in the brain. I'm trying to remember that thing that I was going to talk about. Okay, yes, I got it. So when I go to do a turn, either in the car or with the truck, my brain just locks up. It's using all that resources for me to think and talk for that. So in my thinking, and I would love to see a computer hooked up sensors to my brain to see what is happening, because I suspect that the same resources that I use to talk and think are being used are being overtaken by the importance of me making the turn, because there is a lot going on, especially we're at an intersection and there's cars moving and I've got to time the turn right. If it's a left turn, especially, I've got crossway traffic. If it's a right turn, it's a little bit easier because I just got to make sure there's nobody's coming, but you also have pedestrians, all that stuff. So in my experience, I am pretty sure that the brain faculties cannot be used for both of those at the same time. However, if I'm cutting the grass or something, there's certain things I can do while I think. We can walk and think. Those are not, in fact, walking can help your ability to think. So that motor action can be useful. And let's see, I'm looking back here. So let's look at these. So I'm interested in all of this. It's not just intelligence. I'm actually on an exploration to kind of figure out this thing we call the brain, the mind, consciousness, personality. Paradigm is underneath knowledge because a paradigm is kind of a knowledge structure, assumptions, a way of looking at the world. And intelligence can be used to support the paradigm and in arguments and stuff. It could be a goofy paradigm, like maybe flat Earth. We'll assume that's not true for the sake of argument, which I don't believe in it, but intelligent people can make arguments to try to support this theory. Can be very clever at it. You've got different views of the world, like a young Earth view, old Earth. A friend of mine and I were talking about starlight and time and all that stuff. And my conclusion is We know what the speed of light is. And I don't think there's any reason to assume that light could be instantaneous one way, but have a certain speed the other way. It doesn't, there's no reason. The only reason to assume that is that you believe that the Bible is restricting the entire creation of the universe in 6 days and maybe about 6,000 years as the full history of the universe. Now, that would be fascinating to me if there were reasons to support that. Like if we found, in the so anyway, those two are different paradigms. One is starting with the scripture and, in my opinion, an assumed understanding of that in a plain literal reading, making that the starting point, and everything else has to be filtered through that paradigm. So you have all of this, whatever's out there, the intelligent people are going to have certain reasonings, whether they have to switch over to a faith reasoning, like, well, I just believe the Bible, I don't have to have an argument. That is a reasoning. It wouldn't be the kind of reason that I'm not going to deny observation of the universe. I'm not going to start with that. If Genesis 1's reading in a literal sense is true, we would have support for that out there. And maybe we will in the future. Maybe we will find out. But currently, there's no way to test two-way starlight. Anyway, that's a long way of a recent example of a paradigm affecting intelligence, because the intelligence is used to support that. Knowledge matters, because if you don't know something, you're not going to come to the right conclusion. Maybe conclusion should be in here somewhere. Creative and imagination versus experience. Somebody thinks, well, I don't have to jump off of a roof to prove to myself whether that's a good or a bad idea. I don't need the experience to know that that's a bad idea, because I have this creative imagination. I can kind of simulate what is going to happen, and that simulation matches reality. Maybe not perfectly, because maybe I won't break my leg. Maybe I won't die. But something bad is going to happen. So I don't need to know the details. I'm not going to jump off the roof to find out. But other things, you might need to do the experiment before you act or don't act. Like, let me try magnesium at night, see if I sleep better. I can come up with all the theories I want, but until I try it for myself, maybe I won't know. Okay, instinct, paradigm. Instinct is in this column. Subconscious. This is just brand new. I made this up today, maybe yesterday. All this has to do with the brain, and I'm sure there's been work. Somebody can point me to that somebody else that knows more about this, but this is just my personal hobby. Subconscious. Oh, something interesting about the subconscious. I thought my mouse just died. Is that I think that there is a subconscious and a conscious personality. Oftentimes when people are, there's a lot of people that assume that people do things consciously that are in their best interest. Well, it just so happens to be in your best interest, and you did this, but they weren't aware. In my opinion, most people aren't aware what they do. The kind of person who is so strategic that they do things, consciously, that might be sabotage and all that stuff. I have found, for me, talking about paradigm, I assume that people are not always conscious of what they do if it's in my disinterest or not. This is ill prepared. Please forgive me on that. But this is the only way I'm going to do this stuff right now. That's a whole different theory. And that's requiring my intelligence to come up with a theory, an observation and experience to formulate a theory on the subconscious versus conscious personality. Because, okay, so let's just use me as an example. I believe I have a subconscious part of my personality that likes to be a trickster. I trick myself. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but it's something, I can hide something from myself or whatever. And I don't, it doesn't really affect my interactions with people because I don't find that maybe I do. But anyway, my conscious personality is I'm a nice person and I don't like to pull pranks on people. But maybe there's a part of me that gets such a thrill out of that and it's suppressed, and that sometimes that comes out inadvertently. I'm pulling pranks on people or myself. Just a thought. Might sound a little crazy. Let me see. There's a button here to maximize that. Oh, cool. Okay. I'm learning this stream. See, now if I could have more control over it, I would make it a different size. If I click this, okay, it minimizes me too much. Okay, but that's minimized. I kind of want equal screen, but the other options don't show. So anyway, here's another one where I'm way at the bottom. I've seen that before. Okay, yeah, so see, my personality is the kind that would think about this. Most people probably wouldn't think about this. Subconscious versus the conscious. Does your personality extend past what you're aware of? Well, I would say that's an easy yes. Yes, it does. And I do believe that people subconsciously take actions that are an attempt at their best interest. But sometimes they subconsciously take action that is self-sabotaging. What is that? It's like clearly you're prone to do things that are maybe not in your best interest. So is that, the short-term pleasure versus understanding the long-term benefits? Anyway, I'm sure there's books and books written about this, but I don't know what those are. And go ahead and comment if you're watching. And I have not yet seen comments come through on here. Oh, there it is. I see you. Okay. Show. Own worst enemy. Revelations from God. Bill. Yeah, you are your own worst enemy. I wrote a blog called Arrest Your Bad Self. It was based on several books that I had read, and I just kind of put it together as something. One of my favorite things that I put together, I also made into a video, and recently was editing it into a short. But yeah, what is that? What is this self-sabotage? Is in that I identify it as bad self, but also that is the baby narcissist inside. That is the original captain of the ship. The baby doesn't care about anybody else. It wants immediate gratification. It's the first thing. It's a survival mechanism for you. If you're hungry, cry. If you're thirsty, cry. If you're in pain, cry. If you're uncomfortable, cry. If you're lonely, cry. If you're bored, maybe cry. It's just one thing. What does that develop into? Well, probably it's not thinking long term. It's only thinking about now. It's a program in your head that has not left because it was useful. And maybe there's other programs that override that over time. And make everyone else cry. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Bill. So the bad self, and I call it bad self, it's just a primitive program is what I would call that. And it's not useful for the long term. It's useful when you're a baby. If the baby doesn't cry, how do you know it's in pain or it has gas and needs to be burped or carried or whatever? I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience in that. So somebody else can elaborate more on that. But it is a useful program. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. But at some point, especially when at around 2 or 3, this original ego grows to where it becomes socially unacceptable. And then there's the social pushback. Like, well, if you do this, we're going to do that. And then you find out, oh, so my immediate actions, I might win on the short term, but lose in the long term. Or my selfishness does not work socially. So we start to build another aspect. We start to build a social structure that is more give and take. And if you have sibling, I mean, there's a guy recently was talking about order of birth, and there's a lot of nuances to that, to developing your personality. He was saying, whether you are more of a negotiator or pioneer. I'm a firstborn, and not all of his stuff lined up with my experience, but anyway, I'm getting off track here. There's no track, actually. So yeah, then you have social, and then you have the long-term self-preservation that needs to kick in at some point. I don't know if that's a program that develops with age. Around 40, you start to be like, okay, I think this is going to be a decline. I better change my behavior. Maybe I won't eat as much ice cream and cake. Maybe I won't drink the 56 gram sugar soda. Maybe I'll go diet, but then maybe that's not. So health is my hobby, has been for a while, but I've been taking it more seriously lately. I take a lot of pills every day, most of them legal. And I take in the morning, I take an apple cider vinegar complex. That's 3. Anyway, I got a whole health journey that I'm on, and I'm constantly adjusting things and experimenting, because I believe someday I'm going to find out the optimal. If I could, I'd do like some kind of genetic thing, and maybe they could help me say, oh, and blood work and all that. If I was a Brian Johnson, who, is a multimillionaire, what is intelligence? You're looking at it. Nothing holds me back. Well, let's see. Nothing holds us back. Well, what I said earlier is that personality can either enable intelligence. Like, think about Donald Trump. If he had a different personality, do you think he would go as far as proving he's like a genius? I wouldn't have said that a few years ago. I think he's genius level, but his personality coupled with that geniusness has allowed him to do things that other people wouldn't do, even if they were equally or more intelligent. Yeah. I look healthy enough. Yes, I put vitamin E on my face. I actually was doing experiments on my hands because they look a little wrinkly. See that? That's probably the most aged skin on my body. And I put vitamin E on there and castor oil for a while. And it did, the liver spots did start to clear up. And I didn't record any of that. But yeah, it looks pretty good, really good compared to what it is. One day I had, a couple of years ago, I had a dream that I looked at my hands and I noticed that they were aging. And I had not actually paid attention to my hands at all. And then when I woke up, I looked at my hands, I'm like, oh yeah, they are aging. So I wonder if my subconscious was like noticing that and it brought it to my conscious through a dream. Um, so that was one of my experiments, is trying to fix that in my face, because the sun has done more damage to my face and hands than the rest of my body, because long sleeves and clothes and hat hopefully would shield. But if you notice, Trump's nose is he's gotten a lot of sun on his nose, and it shows it. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I should protect my nose so it doesn't blister. It gets deformed over time. The skin just messes up. But the irony is, I don't really care what I look like for myself, which is why I was single until 29. Okay, I wasn't really concerned about that. Well, as you could tell, I'm not that concerned about it now, but I'm only concerned about it as the social value is there. And that part of my personality did change when I was 14 or 15. Like, I guess when I hit puberty or something, I went from really caring what I looked like to not. But at the same time, I actually got ugly. So maybe it was part of my chemistry makeup that at the same time I was looking the worst from like 16 to like 35. Really not my best years. I was a beautiful baby, beautiful young kid. And I think I look really good now. I mean, not necessarily this moment, but I have the capability. Let's see. Driving that truck really does it too. Yeah, sitting. Oh, my lower back hurts right now. Especially in the oil field with all the bumps and stuff. There's a new chair being ordered for my truck. This will be the third chair for the truck, and it's got, I don't know, 240,000 miles on it. It might be 3 or 4 years old. I don't know. They do about 200 and something miles a day, give or take. So I'm not going to do the math in my head, but the chair that they got, the replaceable chair, was like, it was bad to begin with. The shock absorber was really not that good, and the night shift guy is well, let's just say he has more girth than I do. And I don't know if that wore it out even more. He kind of, now he just pushes the air all the way up, so it's all the way inflated, so it doesn't bounce at all. So you feel every bump. And so what I do is I decrease that. So I find this happy medium to where I can still bounce. But if I hit a real bump, I don't know if it's in that truck or a different truck, I slammed all the way to the bottom. And that did damage to my back for sure, but I didn't report it. So they could fire me if they knew. But they won't fire me because I'm not really, it's already a pre-existing condition. And I'm the kind of person, I just deal with stuff. I'm just cracking my back now. I've been hanging. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. I need to get a bar so I can hang like for a minute before I go to bed. I think that would help. Be another experiment. Okay, so let's go back to the show. I talked about intelligence and how it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, you're going to be very limited if you don't know the right things. Like the other day, I was talking with a group of people, and Einstein came up, and I said, yeah, Einstein was smart, but like he needed to know certain things to, like, all the knowledge that had been built up to that time, he had to learn that was necessary for him to advance that field of knowledge. So to use his intelligence and his creative imagination specifically to pioneer. I could be the greatest poet in the world, but if I never even was exposed to poetry, the world would never know, because I didn't even know it was really a thing, or I never paid attention to it. There could be, maybe the average person is really good at something and that they just need to be exposed to a lot of things to be above average. I mean, like you could be an average person, but really excel in one area, but you'll never know. And even if you do, you might not be interested. For instance, I scored extremely high on volumetric perception. It was like 99th percentile. And well, how do you and I did test that and it's pretty good. I tested it especially when I was at livestock nutritional let's see, LNG or what was whatever it was. They fed cows. And about half of the time or better, I was able to park the truck and they had a boom on the back that would come up and then you would put it into the tower and there was like a pizza size hole for that boom to go in, like a large pizza. But when you're talking about it's like, I don't know, 60 feet in the air, like some guys would have to adjust the truck and move it around to get it right in there. And most of the time I would be able to get it really close and just move just a little bit. It was like nobody else was able to do that. But I mean, I didn't get paid anymore. So I'm like, well, how do I monetize this ability if I'm in the 99th percentile for this volumetric blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I could go into making blueprints or whatever. Look, I'm not going and starting a new career at this point. That would have been nice to know when I was younger, but even still, I was kind of interested in computers. But maybe there's a part in the brain that it does that, but it can also be applied to poetry or words, or maybe that's a different part of the brain, So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And unlocking and optimizing the intelligence. So one of we don't even know how to define intelligence very well because there's all kinds of different ways that manifests itself. You can have social intelligence. A lot of these geniuses maybe aren't really socially, fluent. I'm not really great socially. I guess I've learned how to do that, but my instincts, I would say my instincts, that's in column A, number 6 on there. On that, not all that good. I think you need to start a lawn service. Yeah, well, right before the robots take over and cut your lawn for you. I mean, it's going to be the easiest thing to automate. They already have it automated. It just happens to cost $1,500 or more for that, plus a subscription or something like that. So it's cost prohibitive now for the masses, but I don't think it will be. But even then, if you have that robot, the Elon robot for $30 or $30,000 or $500 a month or whatever, that thing can use your existing lawnmower to cut the grass for you. So those days are going away. But it would be fun. It was like a bucket list item for me to get back into that someday. Only I don't want to actually cut grass myself, so I would just own the business. But I'm going to have to do that virtually in a video game or something because I don't think it's going to exist in the future. Truck driving over the road is going to be first to be automated. One of the first things to be automated is over the road driving. I wonder what you would think about that. Both of you, actually. I wonder what both of you would think about that. I'm guessing you might disagree that that'll ever happen even in our lifetime. A lot of people don't think it will. I would say there's a huge economic incentive for that, and they could already drive on a highway. It doesn't take a lot of, it doesn't take a lot of effort to drive on the highway. But then one of the things they could do is go to a hybrid system and say, all right, the computer is going to alert and we're going to remotely control this truck once it gets to a certain point or whatever. But yeah, we'll still need a person in the cab or maybe remotely, with Starlink and stuff, there isn't a place on the planet you can't be connected very quickly, unless you're under a bridge or something. Tesla's working on it with their Semi. That might still maybe they can copy and paste their car stuff and have it recalibrate for that. He says never. Steve, yeah. That's what my trainer said, and I figured 5 to 10 years. It's been 10 years. We're not there yet. So I don't remember exactly what I told him, but I'm guessing my prediction was 5 to 10 years. And I would say so far that was incorrect because we're not there yet. They keep having these, there's a lot of hype around this stuff. But I do know Tesla is really there and in several places. In Austin, they have their autonomous driving network right now. And then I think they're also doing that in California somewhere. So that's the other thing. What is artificial intelligence? Well, I'll tell you what it isn't. Large language models, not really that intelligent. We just talked to it this morning and asked what's the difference between Church of Christ and Baptist, and it said that, well, Baptists mostly sprinkle. I'm like, and Church of Christ believes in immersion. I'm like, really, what percentage of Baptists believe in sprinkling and pouring versus immersion? Because I grew up Baptist and that wasn't a thing. I mean, that might have been somewhere. And then, so it doesn't know what it's talking about. I mean, it revised itself. Large language model is, I think it'll be useful for talking. But the actual intelligence, just like the brain, what we're doing is what humans are doing now. All these tech companies are recreating the brain. And what we know about the brain is it has different regions that specialize in different things. And these different regions kind of compete to bring this information. And when you're indecisive, it means that two equal parts of your brain are competing for an outcome. And so there's a part of your brain that is like the executive that's like, I don't know, this or that, and that causes hesitation. Steve says, my Google Maps is always losing signal, not very dependable. Really? I've used Google Maps for 10 years. And when I first started in the oil field, of course, I have AT&T and the service out there is almost impeccable. But before I did, I downloaded the Google Maps onto my phone. You can do that. You can pick an area and just have it download all the roads and stuff. And then it just needs to have GPS. So GPS is the satellite part, and that, unless you're going through a tunnel, that shouldn't be a problem. And Bill says 0. I'm guessing you're talking about how much of it'll be automated and stuff. We're probably 15 years away or more from the entire economy being work as optional. Elon is saying right now that work will be optional and will have maximum basic income. I don't know what that means. What do you, I just think that's a word play. Instead of basic minimum or basic income. UBI, universal basic income. That's a whole other interesting. This is what really annoys me when people are like, well, what are human beings going to do if we don't have a job to do? It's like, well, I could think a whole bunch of things I could do. I could actually we could have more of a social life. You could spend more time with your family. Maybe you could travel more, more than once every 10 years, go on vacation. Okay. It is the satellite that I keep losing signal with. Maybe that's your phone. I wonder what kind of phone you have. Do you have an Android or Apple? Speaking of Apple, I think they're on a slow decline. I see things that I'm like, that's a bad sign. But they're so good right now. They have a long way to go before they just to be collapsed. Google is in a great position for AI if they know what they're doing. They should really team up with OpenAI is pretty good. I mean, I just dissed ChatGPT because I think it's auto responses are not good. Okay, so what were we talking about? It was interesting. Oh yeah, the cultural aspect of not having to labor for a living, um, and having an income. I think that, you know, that's gonna be great for people like me because I've got lots of things to do. Social life, uh, hobbies, I could actually play some video games for once. I mean, on my days off. I mean, I could do this more often, for one. I've got lots of content I could create if I had time. And on the time that I have, I'm just like chillaxing because it's like a 13 and a half hour day and 800 data entry points on 3 different apps and paperwork. Samsung Sung S22. Samsung is a good company. I hear. I had what did I have? LG. Uh, yeah, their phones were not good. The ones that I had weren't. The LG 4 is the last one I had, and it died on me. And I got a new one because it was still in warranty, and then that died a year later. So I had it for 2 years, and it wasn't. I was like, there's like no moving parts. How is this thing failing? I don't understand. It seemed like it was programmed in there or something just to get me to get a new phone, which also happened with the Apple 7, iPhone 7 that I had. Battery died on that right after it got paid off. But I will say my iPhone 13 is still working and it's paid off, and it's I think it's 3 years old because it like right before I moved, the other one stopped working. I was pulling up and that like the battery went from 40 to 0, and I'm like, I'm not messing with this. I immediately got a new phone because you can't really replace the battery. So anyway, going back over the cultural stuff. Wow, it's been 42 minutes. That's pretty cool. Yeah, lots of stuff I can do. I can't wait to retire. The funny thing is on this current trajectory, under normal circumstances, I would probably retire right around the time where anybody that didn't want to work wouldn't have to work. That would be the great irony in my life because I wanted to retire early. Good news, maybe I would retire at 55, but then by that year, which would be 2040, anybody could just retire. I don't know if that's going to happen, but the problem is how do we get the people that depend on labor to have a good enough share in the capital, income producing capital, whether it's real estate, renting, stocks, all that stuff. My only solution, unless you're going to have a Marxist fascist government that takes and redistributes, the only other, optimally, you would have a culture that was so good that people did that on their own, but they don't, or they can't, or it's very difficult to. And then a medium solution would be like compulsory capitalism, in which the government makes people put away 15% of their income or something to specific capital income producing accounts. Like we have the IRS or IRA, Roth or otherwise. You have healthcare account. So it would be one account that you could use for your retirement, healthcare, unemployment, education, maybe a down payment on a house or something. You would have specific rules as to you just can't access it to, buy a yacht or something. I don't know. So it's there to encourage civilian independence from government. And if you don't enforce that, I don't know how it's going to happen unless you have fantastic culture. That's the problem. And once you have everybody depending on the government, it only works if you have competent people in the government that do the right thing. They have to be elected by people, and the average person, not exactly educated today. I mean, just, or they're educated. We're educated in two different ways. You got Democrats and Republicans, and then independents that I think independently. I happen to be on the right side, but I'm an independent thinker, open-minded to especially economics. But I happen to land in the Republican Party camp right now. Okay, well, unless there's something else you guys would like to contribute, ask, or anything, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for sticking around. And this was fun. My back is hurting right now. I could use a seat. I need to get a seat. It's $125 30-inch seat that I need so I could sit down here and not be down here. Because this is me standing up, and I could be like this in a different chair, and then you'd see my floor. How do you like that? I just put that rack up, all of our coffee cups. Jenny made that wreath. They're for sale. She's raising money for health care bills, and that bow can be changed out for red for Valentine's Day, red, white, and blue ribbon for Independence Day. Fall, it could be orange. St. Patrick's Day, you could put a green bow there. Christmas, you could put red and green, or in our case, we like blue. We like how Hanukkah looks, so that's what we do. Okay, thanks for being a part of this live stream, and contact me if you want to order those and you live here. Really, we can't ship that stuff anywhere, so San Antonio is the only way that you can get one of those. And one of those popped off, but it's we got them glued in the future. So anyway, thanks for joining, and talk to you later. Bye.